Hi, and welcome to BullDodge, everyone's favorite lacrosse show. We're presented today by Mad Lax California. Check them out at their website at www.madlax.com/California. I'm Ryan Heydrich alongside Casimir Morawski. Lots of lacrosse issues to get to, and our mailbag's full, so let's get right into it. Our first mailbag comes from Jim in Idaho. He says, "A lot of talk about Mo's Southwest Grill Classic on last week's show. I loved it, but what did you guys think of the event?"
Well, the event was definitely a success, as Jacksonville University played a great host. And there was a lot of good lacrosse action as well. I was really impressed with Penn State's performance. You know, they played very well against the Denver Pioneers, with Shane Sturgis and Jack Forrester each recording four goals. The Penn State offense looked really good, and it should be interesting to see how how Denver responds to that loss. You know, they're kind of sluggish in that game, coming off traveling all week. So it should be interesting to see how they respond.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was a great win for Penn State and something that they could really build on. You know, an early season win over a top 10 program such as Denver. The divisional opponent as well is a great win for them. Denver was had not the greatest hand going into the weekend. You know, they had to travel back across the whole United States again for the second straight week, and they dealt with some pretty serious injuries during the game. Chase Carrera was out, which really affected their style of play, I believe. And the other game, Jacksonville lost to Ohio State, and you can really tell by that game that the talent level from the Denver-Penn State game really dropped off. But nonetheless, it was still a great game. I was really impressed with Jacksonville's athletic ability, and Ohio State had extremely good athletes as well, and you know, they had just a little more lacrosse IQ, which is something that we talked about last week as what would be the difference. And it did, as the Ohio State Buckeyes won 9-6, excuse me. As far as the event played out, I was impressed with the event. However, I was really disappointed in the city of Jacksonville, and the attendance that was there. It looked like there was absolutely no one in the stands for the Penn State-Denver game, which is disappointing for a city who's trying to grow the game. But as far as that, I thought it was a great event, and I look forward to next year's.
Yeah, our next mailbag question comes from Pete in California. He says, Stanford continued its winning ways this season. Just how good are the boys from Palo Alto?
Well, there's no question that Stanford's the hottest team in the nation right now. They started off the season with a big win over UCSB that surprised some people, and they didn't disappoint this weekend by absolutely crushing Oregon, who was coming off a win against Simon Fraser as well as Chapman. You know, it was an impressive win for them, and they really started 3-0 start in the MCLA with 3 good wins is a great start.
Yeah, what has really impressed me about Stanford is their versatility on offense. They have so many weapons that they can drive from, and they can pretty much drive from anywhere on the field. I'm also really impressed with their play on the defensive end as well, with Josh Giglio in goal. I mean, his save percentage is well over 60%, which is great. So it should be interesting to see how they do in the WCLL this year.
Exactly. With the way that Jack Farr's playing, he had 8 goals and 2 assists against Oregon, which is just outrageous. The way he's playing with the addition of freshman midfielder Peter Doyle, I think that the offense is really great, and with the strong defense that we've been seeing from Giglio and his pals out back there in the back line, I think that they're built for a deep, long run. So our next mailbag question comes from Blake in California. He says, "A lot of big NCAA games this past weekend. What games were you watching?"
One game that really stood out to me was the UNC-UMass game. I didn't think that UMass stood a chance without Will Manny, but they ended up using a 4-goal run in the 4th quarter to win that game. So, I was wrong, and UMass really impressed me, and it should be interesting with the return of Will Manny to see how they do down the road.
Yeah, well, I was paying attention on Sunday to Albany as they defeated Syracuse in double overtime. You know, for Syracuse, this isn't the best start for the season. They had a disappointing 2012 season, and to start 2013 with another loss, can't have the Big Orange too happy. But you have to look at Albany as a team that maybe could make a run at the postseason, make the national tournament. I think with the Thompson family out there just putting up monster numbers on the offensive end, I think that they're a team to look out for.
Yeah, and in some other key games last weekend, Loyola squeaked by Delaware 9-8, Lehigh beat Villanova 11-9, and Notre Dame beat Duke 13-5.
Yeah, and some other scores that caught our eye were Virginia, who barely got past Drexel in their season opener 13-12 in overtime. Maryland moved to 2-0 on the year with a 16-4 victory over Hartford. And the Terps have now scored 39 goals in their first 2 games. Talk about offense.
Yeah. And our next mailbag question comes from Travis in Arizona. He wants to know what our reaction to the new MCLA poll that came out this week was.
Well, I think the poll came out and the voters actually finally got it right for once, which is impressive to see. You know, they're maybe getting mid-season form as they keep their voting techniques going on. You know, Stanford moved up all the way to number 4, and I think that's justified. A lot of teams haven't really started playing yet, and if they have played, they've played some kind of floater games. So as the season gets on, it'll be interesting to see how the poll shapes up after teams actually start playing against each other.
Yeah, and in the top 10, Colorado State, Colorado, and as well as Michigan State still haven't played a game, and I think they all play this weekend, so it should be interesting to see where they move, as well as Stanford and Oregon, Oregon and Chapman dropping down to 8 and 9, respectively. I thought that was interesting, and I think that's justified from how they played last weekend.
Exactly. So for more poll discussion, check out our other show. It's our Power Ranking show. It drops every Thursday, so make sure you check that out. Moving on to our next mailbag question. It comes from Steve in Arizona. He says, to this early point of the MCLA season, what are your guys' surprises so far?
Well, my biggest surprise has been the success of the WCLL. You know, we all knew that it was a good conference, but this year it looks like it's turning into an elite conference. You know, with Stanford ranked number 4, you know, they've had some really good early season success, and you know the conference overall is 12-4 so far in the early part of the season. So it should be interesting to see. That could be, you know, 3 teams might even make it to Greenville out of that league.
It's pretty exciting for the WCLL. I was most impressed with St. Thomas, the Tommies. I was really impressed. You know, they had a tough weekend last weekend playing 3 of the top teams in MCLA Division II, and they took care of business in all 3 games. And what's more impressive is they played Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, playing back-to-back-to-back against that quality of opponent. Must be tough, but you know, the Tommies came out, took care of business against Concordia, then beat rival Westminster, and then finished off Cal State Fullerton on Sunday. And I think that a team this early in the season, they can win 3 consecutive tough games, it's only going to get stronger, and that's what it's going to take in Greenville, and they know that. And, you know, I think they're, once again, the team to beat in MCLA Division II this year.
Yeah, and our next mailbag question comes from Freddie in New York. He says, lots of great NCAA action this weekend. What games are you guys watching?
Well, I definitely think the game of the week is the game that features the in-state rivals for Maryland Loyola versus the University of Maryland. It will be a game that is going to be shown on Saturday on the NBC Sports Network, which I think did a great job last week with the Mo Southwest Grill Classic. You know, we talked a little bit earlier about the offense that Maryland's shown. It's just been outrageous what they've been able to do. You know, everyone's chipping in goals. It's really hard to figure out who's going to be the main point guy when everyone's just throwing in 4 or 5 goals a game. And then on Lola's side, I think, you know, Josh Hawkins was suspended last weekend for a team violation. You know, they don't know if he's going to play again this weekend, so that's definitely something to look out for since he's such a strong defensive midi. And, you know, Lola's really going to have to turn their offense up if they want to keep up with the Maryland pace. But I think they have the talent. I just don't know if they have the strong enough defense to hang with them for the whole game.
Yeah, you know, that game's going to be a great game. Rematch of the national championship last year. I'm looking forward to it as well. But I'm also looking forward to watching the Notre Dame and Penn State game. You know, both teams have found some early season success this year. You know, Penn State just came off that big win against Denver. So it should be, you know, the Fighting Irish are also coming off a huge win against Duke. You know, they kind of blew them out of the water, 13-5. And I see the Irish midfielder riding Jim Marley, who had 5 goals against Duke, and winning this one.
Exactly. So thanks for watching. It's been another great episode of BullDodge. I'm Ryan Heydrich.
I'm Kazimir Moravsky.
We'll see you next week.